those who joined the online classes. Online students, is it audible to all of you? Kindly give me your confirmation. All right. So let me just brief about this particular program before I begin, and then we'll continue about this particular program. Okay. So first I'll brief about the program, then I'll brief me about myself a little. Okay. So this program would be a mains crash course program for the GS paper 2, and what you are planning to cover under this particular program. It includes your polity part of the GS paper 2. It includes the social justice part, and then it also includes what is called as the governance part. So these are the three primary areas that will be focused upon in this particular program, which is the social justice, the governance, as well as the polity part. Okay. This would be what we are going to do. So what are we going to cover in this particular program? Indian polity, governance, and the social justice part. For the students who have already given their prelims and who are aware of the prelim syllabus, or in general the syllabus of the UPSC, you know that GS paper 2 has got 4 areas. I would say the major part is Indian polity, then you've got the governance part, then you have the social justice part, then the last thing is the international relations part. These are the 4 major subdivisions in GS paper 2, and you know that this particular paper is for 250 marks. And what we are planning to cover under this crash course is that we will be taking up the Indian polity, governance, and social justice. And if you look into this areas in terms of the marks, Indian polity is roughly around, I would say, 110 to 125 marks is what UPSC is asking, and that would be roughly around say 9 to 10 questions. In terms of questions, if you put it, these are the number of questions that is asked from this particular area. And if I combine The governance and social justice part, it is roughly around 60 to 75 marks. That means if I put it in terms of the number of questions, it is roughly around 6 to 7 questions. So if you combine this Indian polity, governance and social justice, in terms of the marks, the number of marks would be 200. And in terms of questions, it will be roughly around 16 questions. 4 questions, or I would say 50 marks, or 4 questions will be from your IR part, and this IR part is mostly a contemporary type of question. It is not going to be much from the conventional areas. It's mostly from the current affairs. That is how UPSC has been asking the question. So what we are focusing in this particular program is that we are going to cover almost 200 marks for your mains, and which includes the Indian polity, governance and social justice, which I would say is the most important and difficult area for the students to prepare. And why I say it is very difficult for the students to prepare, because one is, although UPSC has given a prescribed syllabus, students do not have a direction as to how they have to prepare about this particular part. That's the one thing. And the second thing I would say is the students go with a prelim-centric approach. Again, they start preparing as to how they would prepare it in the books, or they would have a book-centric approach, which is not the approach when it comes to the mains examination. It has to be a topic-centric approach. When I say topic-centric approach, those topics which is given in the syllabus, which is UPSC has already focused upon. So that is exactly what we are going to do today. We are going to exactly cover the syllabus that is given in UPSC. So let me also just briefly explain you about this particular program. How are we going to start this particular program? How we are going to move about this particular program? Let me give the broader details, and then I'll take you to the plan of this particular program as well. If you see the broader details of this particular program, the entire program will be around 50 to 60 hours. And we have approximately around 20 lectures as a part of this particular program. Every lecture would be around 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And every lecture will be exclusively focusing upon the topic that is given in the syllabus. You know that UPSC has given a detailed syllabus for every paper, and we'll pick up those topics which is given in the syllabus. We will see what kind of questions can be asked from these areas. We'll not only cover the conventional areas, but we'll also add upon the relevant current topics in current important events from those topics. So first thing, we'll try to give you the conceptual clarity. We'll try to add a lot of current affairs, but what is even more important in this particular program is every class will make you to write answers. We'll make you to write answers. So for example, today if I cover 3-4 topics in the class, so when you come tomorrow for the next class, the first thing that we'll do is, for the first half an hour, we'll make you write the answers. We'll give you 3 to 4 questions, and you write answers for those 3 to 4 questions in the first half an hour. And then once I come, we will also discuss those questions, and after discussing those questions, we'll move forward to the next topic. So in this way, as a routine from the very next class, you will have to write the questions. So not only you'll have the conceptual clarity, not only you'll be updated with the current affairs, but most importantly, you know how to write the answers, which is the most important thing when it comes to the mains examination. So we'll try to do all these things. That's exactly what we are going to focus in this particular program. Good morning, Abhay. Okay, so this is exactly what we are going to focus. So let me just get you through the details of this particular program before I start certain topics. What we are going to see. Okay, so here please look into the detailed schedule of this particular program. So this is how the class plan for this particular program is. So let us try to understand the class plan first. So we are starting the program from today, that is 6th of July. 6th July and 7th July would be what? Will be free demo classes for all the students. So we'll start the program. Students who wanted to be part of the free demo program, they can attend this particular program. And then you can take up the admissions. So see the topics that you are going to cover on each and every single class. So to 6th and 7th, if you see, we are going to cover this particular topic. That is, we are going to cover the topic of the parliament and the state legislature. And every year you see that UPSC is asking 2 to 3 questions from this particular area. So 2 to 3 questions are coming from this particular area. So that is exactly what we are going to focus in these 2 lectures. So we'll touch upon the most important topics related to the mains examination. We'll also add them with the current affairs. We'll also make you write answers. So the idea is, in this way we are going to touch up every topic. If you see the next class, that is the lecture number 3 and lecture number 4, we are going to cover another important topics, that is the executive and the judiciary. So here also UPSC has been asking 2 questions, one from executive, one from judiciary. That's one thing that you are going to focus. And then further, as we will proceed, if you see the further classes, then we are going to touch upon the historical underpinning, the salient features, the evolutions, the concept like basic structure. So there also you get 2 to 3 questions. And then as we will proceed further, we will touch upon the topics of separation of powers, dispute redressal mechanisms, center-state relationship, where you get 1 question every year from this particular topic. Separation of powers and ADR, you may get 1 question from this particular topic. Local bodies, yes, you may get 1 particular question from this particular topic. Constitutional bodies, yes, you may get 1 particular question from this particular topic. And then you have statutory, constitutional, and the quasi-judicial bodies, Representation of People Act, you may get 1 question from this particular topic. So here you can see the topics like governance, e-governance and all those things. So here also you can expect 1 or 2 questions. And then you have topics of government policies and interventions in various sectors. Here you can expect 1 question. And then further, if you see, you can see the topics of social justice. So finally we are coming to the topic of social justice here, welfare schemes, issues related to poverty and hunger, vulnerable sections. So here you get 2 to 3 questions. So that's why I said overall the number of questions that may be asked is around 16 questions, which will be roughly around 200 marks. That's exactly what you are going to cover, say for the next 20 lectures. Now what is the plan? We have devised this schedule in such a way. Students have already given the prelims. If they start taking up this particular course, we are trying to cover it exactly before 15 to 20 days before the mains examination, so that the students can completely prepare G.S.Paper-Ii, except of course the IR part, which as I already said, it is mostly the current affairs oriented thing. And what is extremely difficult is the governance and the social justice area. Now if you look into the performance of the students when it comes to the G.S.Paper-Ii, the students are not in a position to perform well in G.S.Paper-Ii. One of the major reasons as to why the students are not in a position to perform well in G.S.Paper-Ii is majorly because that they do not cover the syllabus holistically. So what is the problem that they face when it comes to G.S.Paper-Ii? So do they holistically cover the syllabus? Do they holistically cover the syllabus is a big question. And that is exactly what we are going to do, is that we are going to pick up each and every single topic in the syllabus. As I have already said, see right now from the first class, we are going to touch upon the first topic today, which is the Parliament and the state legislature. And based on the analysis, I have gone through the research of how UPSC has been picking questions from various topics and what is the weightage that UPSC has been giving to all the topics. So first thing that you are going to do, is that we are going to cover the syllabus holistically. The holistic coverage of the syllabus is the first and foremost thing. So I have already given the plan here. You can see that we'll touch upon every topic in the plan. We'll try to cover different dimensions of each and every topic. So when I say holistic coverage of syllabus, it includes all the things. I'll touch upon the conventional areas. I'll touch upon the relevant current affairs. I'm using the word relevant current affairs, which is again a very crucial word, because there's a lot of current affairs which may not be relevant or not up to the UPSC standards. So we should also be in a position to rule out what is not relevant. So that is exactly what we'll do. So we'll touch upon the conventional areas, we'll touch upon the relevant current affairs, plus we'll try to solve as a part of our classroom program most of the PYQs, plus we'll also have a lot of practice question. Say for example, today we'll touch upon few topics. Once I give the introduction, once the introduction is over, you will understand as to how from every topic I am giving the practice question. And it is not only about the holistic coverage of syllabus, then the students also face difficulty because of lack of writing practice. Lack of writing practice. And before I go to the lack of writing practice, I'll also explain you, when I say holistic coverage of syllabus, the mistake that the students do when it comes to G.S.Paper-Ii is largely they try to cover the polity. Most of the students, yes, there's no doubt in that. But where they lag is they do not cover up what is called as the areas of social justice and the areas of governance, which again is up to 60 to 70 marks. And if you're not prepared for the 60 to 70 marks, it's impractical for you to get very good scores. Because although the paper is largely polity and it is seen as G.S.Paper-Ii is completely polity, it is not about polity. Polity is only 50% of the paper at the maximum. And then rest of the 50% either comes from the social justice and governance and the international relations. So the student should be prepared in all these areas. Okay, so we'll touch upon all these things for polity, for social justice, for governance, which is exactly what you are going to do in this particular program. Okay, once we cover all these things, then we'll also focus upon the writing practice. As I already said, we'll try to write 3 to 4 questions every session. So suppose today I am taking the topic of Parliament. I'm going to teach the important areas in Parliament, and then when you come for the next class, I'll give you 3 questions from these areas for the first half an hour, which I already said. So you keep writing for answers to all the 3 questions. And then on top of that, I'll discuss as to how to write answers for all the 3 questions. Once I discuss how to write answers for all the 3 questions, then I move to the corresponding topic. So in this way, we are going to cover the entire syllabus holistically, which includes your current affairs, your conventional part, your answer writing practice. That is exactly what is relevant for the students to score well. Okay, once we follow this particular approach, I'm very sure that this course, I'm going to cover 200 marks, as I already said. How much a student can expect to get, provided that they also meticulously follow. I'm very confident that the students can get 110 marks, but I have been very conservative in my approach. 110 marks out of 200. I'm not saying 110 marks out of 250 marks. I can assure you that you get 110 marks out of the 200 marks. And then provided if you get at least 20 marks out of 50 marks in your IR part, you can end up, if you can add 20 marks from the IR part, I can ensure you that you can land up in 130 plus in your G.S.Paper-Ii. I'm very conservative in my approach. You can ask to my students, because who have already been part of my prelims program. Some of the students who are there online may be part of my prelims program already, or you can ask some of my prelims students. This year for 2024 prelims examination, 90% of the questions could be solved by the students who are part of my prelims program. But having said that, this is not an objective paper, this is little a subjective paper. So I feel because it's a subjective paper, I'm not very ambitious or over ambitious or overconfident in terms of what I promised to the students. But yes, 110 marks out of 200, and plus if they do well in the IR, 130 plus is very much possible. But if you see the average course today in G.S.Paper-Ii, it is roughly around, I would say, 100 marks. And you can have an edge of almost 30 marks if you do this particular program meticulously, which can change the entire fortune of the student. If the student is not able to clear the mains, they can clear the mains. If they are not able to get into the rank, they can get into the rank. If they are not getting into the desired service, they can get into the desired service. If they are not able to get into the desired cadre, they will be able to get into the desired cadre, because each and every single mark is going to make a lot of difference. Alright, so having said all those things, the students have to feel the confidence. So I would welcome all the students to be part of the demo lecture. Today and tomorrow there is a demo lecture. You please be part of the demo lecture and try to feel as to how the course is going to be. And then you can decide, and you can take the admissions for this particular program. Alright, so with that I'll just proceed to the first topic. We'll try to cover a few topics, and on the particular topic we'll also try to solve a lot of questions. That is exactly what is going to be the very important thing in this particular program. Okay, so we'll go to the first topic today. The first topic that I'm going to cover is, today I'm going to take up the parliament part, which UPSC is asking. So I have picked up the parliament part because UPSC has been asking a lot of questions from this particular area, especially the parliament part. 2 to 3 questions is being asked. So we'll just try to touch upon this particular topic today, and we'll move to the further topics as and when we will complete every topic. We'll take it gradually, that's why I have given sufficient time for this particular program also. And keep this in your mind. What is very important? The important thing that you have to keep in your mind when it comes to the mains examination, in mains examination, the topic or the preparation should be topic specific. I am again saying it, it should be topic specific, it should not be book centric approach, because reading an entire book is not going to help you. What is going to help you is whether you are aware of the topics that is given in the syllabus, and you should also be able to evolve yourself as to how UPSC is also evolving. Okay, so before I get into the parliament topic, let me also give you certain technical details about this particular course. So the course that you have started right now for G.S.Paper-Ii, this particular course will be a weekend course. We just need a couple of days from you, that is Saturday and Sunday. We are not taking much of your time, because we know that the students are preparing for the mains examination. They should give a lot of time for the other subject also, especially for your optional, which is very important. Then you have other GS papers. So 50% of your time should go for your optional, and 50% of your time you can give it for GS. And provided if you are part of this particular program, I am very sure that we will try to do everything mostly in the class itself when it comes to a G.S.Paper-Ii. We will give you the conceptual clarity, we will make you write the answers. The only thing probably you'll have to go do extra is you'll have to go home, and probably you'll have to revise the things when you go home. That is what is probably you'll have to do it from your side. So remaining things will be covering it from the class itself. So when you talk of the parliament, and okay, it's going to be a weekend program, Saturday and Sunday. Every day in the morning around 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. is what we have kept the time for this particular program. So we'll try to cover by the next 20 lectures the almost the entire GS paper 2. That's the idea. And apart from this particular program, we also have an ethics case studies program. And if the students want, they can separately take admissions for the courses, and there's an integrated program also. For more details, you can contact the office and they'll let you explain. And if the students wanted to reach out to me, you can get my number from the office. You can talk with me directly also. All right. So with that, I'll just get into the syllabus, that is the Parliament and State Legislature, which is the first topic that you are going to do. And the first thing that you are going to discuss in Parliament and State Legislature is the relevance of Lok Sabha today, the relevance of the Rajya Sabha. What is the relevance of Rajya Sabha in a federal political setup? And this topic has been in news for a number of reasons. And this particular topic is also very important given the political situation in our country today. When I talk of the political situation for the last 10 years. So in the last 10 years, what has been the political situation and why this particular topic is very relevant. All right. I'll just take you to the question first, and from the question we'll try to understand. I think all the students are having the handouts. Ilakya, do you have the handout? Handout. Okay, so online students, you can also use the handout for your reference. Look into the first question that is given in the handout. So from the questions, we'll try to go and we'll try to move to the answers, okay? Because the entire approach for this particular program, rather than the conventional approach, is giving you various conceptual clarity on the topic. We should also help you to write the answers. That's what is very important. So look into the particular question. What is the question saying? The first question is, the Rajya Sabha is merely, okay, look into the question. Rajya Sabha is not merely a house for second thought. Rather, it is a guardian of state's interest, a watchdog of government, and possesses power to improve upon legislation. Comment. Okay, so this is exactly what we are going to study, as to not only the particular topic, but we'll also try to solve the questions. Now again, I'm just repeating the first question. See, it is asking about Rajya Sabha is not merely a house for second thought. Rather, it is a guardian of state's interest, a watchdog of government, and possesses power to improve upon legislation. Comment. So this question is very clear that it is trying to ask you the relevance of Rajya Sabha. In the entire topic, the question is about the relevance of Rajya Sabha, basically from 3 dimensions. So what are the dimensions it is trying to ask about the relevance of Rajya Sabha? So it is trying to ask you the relevance of Rajya Sabha from 3 areas. One is how the Rajya Sabha is guarding the interest of the states. That's the first thing. And how the Rajya Sabha is the watchdog of the government. And also how the Rajya Sabha is helping in improving the legislation. Now you try to understand that in our parliamentary system, India has got a parliamentary democracy. In a parliamentary system, there are 2 houses. We have got Lok Sabha and we have got the Rajya Sabha also. But specifically the question is asking about what is the role of Rajya Sabha in our country. It is not asking about the Lok Sabha, but specifically about what? The Rajya Sabha. And the question itself is very clearly demarcating 3 important things that you have to explain in this question. So try to understand, whenever you read a particular question, the first thing is you will have to understand as to what are the key areas in the question. Once you understand the key areas in the question, then you can easily answer those things. So If you talk of the relevance of Lok Sabha, from the question itself I can understand that there are three important roles that the Rajya Sabha has to play as per this particular question. Is that how the Rajya Sabha is going to take care of the federal, how it is going to take care of the federal interest. And second thing is how it is going to make the watchdog of the government, which means how it is going to make the government accountable. And then the third thing is how it can improve upon legislation. So once you have the point for all these areas, your answer is done. Okay? So whenever you write an answer for this particular question, so this should be the general framework for writing the answers. You start with an introduction. I'll explain all these things. Then you come to the body part, which is the most important area, which is going to fetch you the marks. And then you have a conclusion part, which I think most of the students know. That is the general framework for writing the answers. There is no doubt. What is an introduction? What could be an introduction for this particular question? We'll try to discuss. Introduction could be anything that is related to what is asked in the question. Say for example, this question is talking about it is primarily centered around the relevance of Rajya Sabha. How Rajya Sabha is not merely a second house, or it is not merely a house for second thought. Rather, it is a guardian of state's interest, watchdog of government, and possesses power to improve upon legislation. That means the question is saying Rajya Sabha is not just a useless second chamber, but it has a lot of important functions to perform, and the functions are also given in the question itself, largely. So your question can start something about the Rajya Sabha itself. Or you can say that the parliament, India has got a parliamentary democracy, and the parliamentary democracy has provided for what is called as bicameralism. And the bicameralism provides for two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And as per the constitution, the Rajya Sabha has got important functions to perform. And here is what you'll have to focus upon. Your body part is the king. This is where you're going to fetch the most of the marks. So here especially there are three dimensions that you have to focus upon. So how Rajya Sabha is going to protect the federal interest in this question. One, how the Rajya Sabha can make the government accountable. Three, how the Rajya Sabha can improve upon the legislations. Now what is more important when you write the answers for this particular question is that you can use the subtopics also, as when you write your body, the various functions to be performed by Rajya Sabha. First, how they protect federal interest, make them accountable, improve upon legislations. You can put all these side headings, but the most important thing is to what extent you are able to give examples for your answers. As long as you are not able to provide examples for your answers, you will not be in a better position to write the, you are not in a better position to fetch the best marks. And then finally you can come and you can conclude your answers for this particular question. So this is the way you go and start writing the answers. Now let me give content for this particular topic. Let us try to discuss about the Rajya Sabha. Now if you see the genesis of Rajya Sabha in our country, the genesis was in the Government of India Act 1919. I think most of you might know that. It was in 1919, the Government of India Act 1919 that provided for what is called as bicameralism. Before that, there was no bicameral legislature. The same idea was carried forward in the Government of India Act 1935. So all these informations are given in your handouts also. You can just have a look into it. So for the students who are not having the handout, you can just have a look into the board also. So as I already said, the genesis of the Rajya Sabha was in the Government of India Act 1919. Then the Government of India Act 1935 also provided for the Rajya Sabha. And then the Constituent Assembly, they have also approved this particular idea of what is called as the Rajya Sabha. And what is very important is what kind of debate has happened in the Constituent Assembly. In the Constituent Assembly, there are a lot of debates that has happened, and then they, based on certain debates, they felt that yes, there is a lot of relevance for Rajya Sabha. So here you can see what are the points that has been held in the in the Constituent Assembly in favor of Rajya Sabha. See, the first and foremost point that the Constituent Assembly thought, yes, we should have a Rajya Sabha, which is where you can also write as a part of your conclusion also or anywhere. If you see what are the various reasons why the Constituent Assembly felt that there is a need for Rajya Sabha, is first they thought that it enhances the quality of debates. They thought that Rajya Sabha is a house where there can be quality debates, because you understand that Rajya Sabha is also a place that where members can be nominated from different areas, which is not the case in Lok Sabha. While in case of Lok Sabha, there can be only elected members, but in case of Rajya Sabha, the president can nominate 12 members. The president can nominate members from different areas, from different walks of life, like art, science, literature, social service. So what is the benefit of nominating these members? That would help them to have a bring in different perspective when they discuss on various bills. So all these discussions, of course, can improve upon what? All these discussions can improve upon the legislations which has been discussed in the Rajya Sabha. So here that is exactly that you have to write. When write how it can improve upon legislations, you will have to put that particular point. And then if you see the second reason, they represent the federal political character. That is also very important. When you say how they represent the federal political character, in fact, what is Rajya Sabha? Rajya Sabha is nothing but it is Council of States. They are not elected by the people. One of the foremost ideas to why the Rajya Sabha has been brought in is that they have to address the state's interest. Has the Rajya Sabha addressed the state interest? Do you have any examples for that? I have also given one example in your handout. You can see that when I say that the Rajya Sabha has to, Rajya Sabha is there to protect the state interest, see, I have given certain examples also, the instances where the Rajya Sabha has been really assertive. So one example is, look into here, the 64th and the 65th Constitutional Amendment Bill, which was related to the local bodies. The 64th and the 65th Constitutional Amendment Bill was basically introduced by Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi when he was the Prime Minister of India. Now the 64th and 65th Constitutional Amendment Bill was trying to take away the powers of the states, and they were trying to bring in the Panchayat. They were trying to give constitutional status to Panchayat and the municipalities, which you all know that it happened later subsequently by the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. But however, even before that, Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi tried to give the constitutional status, but he was trying to take away a lot of powers from the states. Today you know that although the constitutional status has been given to the Panchayat and municipalities, a lot of things is to be decided only by the state legislature. But this 64th and 65th Constitutional Amendment Bill was trying to take a lot of powers from the states, and ultimately the Rajya Sabha did not give the approval for this. And because the Rajya Sabha did not give the approval, this bill never became an act. So there was no possibility that this bill became an act. So here is it not an example that the Rajya Sabha was definitely protecting the federal interest. So these are the type of examples that you have to give. Another example I can give to protect the federal interest, there is a specific article which is called as Article 312 of the Constitution, which is giving a special power to the Rajya Sabha. How many of you know about this Article 312? Article 312 of the Constitution is giving a special power to the Rajya Sabha because without the resolution of the Rajya Sabha under Article 312, no new All India service can be created. This is again to protect the federal interest. Certain type of legislations can be made by the Parliament even on an item in the state list. But such a legislation can be made by the Parliament on an item in the state list only with the approval of the Rajya Sabha. That is what is given under Article 249 of the Constitution. So try to understand that when I say that the Rajya Sabha, one of the important reason is to protect the federal interest. So you'll have to bring in these examples, you'll have to bring in these articles as a part of your answer. Unless and until you bring in these examples, unless and until you bring in these articles as a part of your answer, you will not fetch the better marks. Alright. So if you look into the debates in the Constituent Assembly, one is of course they have to protect the federal interest. Second is they have to make the system more accountable. And then the third thing that you have seen is that they have to improve upon the legislation. So how they improve upon the legislation? The kind of discussions that they can do. We have seen that. Different wide perspective by different people. So these are all the points that you can add. And if you see the other reasons, again, to ensure the continuity of the functioning. Okay, one special functions of the Rajya Sabha is also they ensure continuity in the functioning, which is also, but this is not relevant to this particular question anyways. But yes, they ensure the continuity in the sense you can add it here, that they make the government more accountable. That when I say that they ensure continuity, you know that constitutionally the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, whereas the Lok Sabha is not a permanent house, whereas the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. And because the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, it cannot be dissolved. And because it cannot be dissolved, at any point of time, Rajya Sabha can be used as a mechanism, even if the Lok Sabha is not there. Rajya Sabha can be used as a mechanism to question the government. You know that in a parliamentary democracy, what is the most important thing? In a parliamentary democracy, the government has to be made accountable. And how the government is made accountable? The government is made accountable through a lot of questions that can be asked in the parliament, through various debates in the parliament. So now coming to the third area is how they can make the government accountable. So what is the specific function as to how the government can be made accountable? Can there be questions which can be asked in the Rajya Sabha? Can there be motions that can be introduced in the Rajya Sabha? Now this is where you'll have to again give examples. Say for example, in the 17th Lok Sabha, during the term of the 17th Lok Sabha, it was in the Rajya Sabha a lot of questions was asked against the government. It was in the Rajya Sabha a lot of questions has been asked about the issue of Manipur violence. So you'll have to bring in the current examples when you write the answers. In the Rajya Sabha, they try to introduce a lot of motions. They ask questions about the Manipur. Even couple of days before, the leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Kharge, was very critical of the Prime Minister, and he was very critical of the fact that the Prime Minister has not answered to the Manipur issue. So by these questions, by the motions that they can introduce, different types of motions that they can introduce in the Rajya Sabha, they can also make the government more and more accountable. Okay? So once you put in all these articles, the examples, then your answer becomes extremely, extremely better. Okay? So this is the way that you'll have to focus, and this is the way you'll have to start writing the answers. So if you look into the handout, you can understand that I have given a lot of points. This points say as to what are the various debates during the Constituent Assembly, why they wanted to have the Rajya Sabha is one thing, what is the genesis of this. And then there were also certain points against Rajya Sabha, that the Rajya Sabha can be used to delay the bills. Can the Rajya Sabha be used to delay the bills? Yes, the Rajya Sabha can also be used as a delaying tactics. But the Rajya Sabha is not just a delaying tactics, that they represent the federal interest, they can make the government accountable. The Rajya Sabha is seen as a delaying tactic at that point of time, but not today, because when the Constituent Assembly provided for the Rajya Sabha, the entire Rajya Sabha was also mostly from the Congress party. So ultimately, after all the debate, they accepted to the bill, so it was only seen as a delaying tactic. But today it is not just a delaying tactic. If the Rajya Sabha wants, the Rajya Sabha can deny giving approval to the ordinary bills, because we know that the Rajya Sabha has got equal powers with that of the Lok Sabha, except in certain areas. Of course, yes, they don't have equal powers in case of a money bill, they don't have equal powers in case of no confidence motion, and in certain areas there is no equal powers, especially their representation in financial matters, that is demand for grants and all those things, they do not have equal powers. So at that point of time, it was seen as a delaying tactic. It was seen as a backdoor entry for the legislatures. What does it mean by backdoor entry for legislators? One of the basic criticism of Rajya Sabha is they thought that Rajya Sabha is a place, instead of appointing the people who are experts in different walks of life, it is just to bring in people who have lost the elections. So for example, even today many political parties do that. Somebody lost elections to the Lok Sabha, they are given a backdoor entry and they are brought in as an MP through Rajya Sabha. So that is again a criticism of this. And then they also criticize that the Rajya Sabha does not have equal powers. So of course, yes, in the Constituent Assembly, they thought that there are certain ways and they favored Rajya Sabha. There is some element of criticism also. But ultimately, what won the day is that people were in favor of Rajya Sabha. And they were in favor of Rajya Sabha basically because the Rajya Sabha can protect the federal interest, the Rajya Sabha can make the government accountable, the Rajya Sabha can improve upon the legislation. Now see, to stress upon this point, to improve upon the legislation, I have given one example as to how they protect the federal interest, as to how the Rajya Sabha failed to give approval for the 64th and the 65th Constitutional Amendment Bill. So similarly, if you see that they can improve upon the legislation, you can also give the example of how Rajya Sabha has not given approval to certain bills, which has forced the government to go for a joint sitting. There were 3 instances in the history of India where there were joint sitting. One in 1959, then in 1977, again in the year 2002. Even if you don't remember the bills, at least you can remember 3 instances, so thereby a lot of debates. Today, a number of bills in the Rajya Sabha is referred to the select committees of Rajya Sabha. You know that whenever the bills are passed, when the bill goes to the Rajya Sabha can separately refer these bills to various select committees of its own. So thereby they can improve upon the legislation. Say for example, one recent bill, the Forest Conservation Amendment Bill, before it was passed, it was referred to the select committee in the Rajya Sabha. So thereby use these examples, only the examples can make your answers better. But of course, there are certain criticism to the Rajya Sabha also. The Rajya Sabha has got its own limitations also. But overall, what should be the way forward? We understand, yes, the Rajya Sabha has a very, very important role in our parliamentary system. The parliamentary system has been already declared to be part of basic structure. And what is part of the parliamentary system? It is not just Lok Sabha, but also the Rajya Sabha. And the Rajya Sabha specifically has got important roles to play. What are the important roles? That they protect the federal interest. We have seen that how they can make the government accountable through the questions, discussions, motions, how they can improve upon the legislations. They may not give assent to the bills as long as they are satisfied. They can refer the bills to various select committees. So they can also improve upon the legislation. But it is not that today there is no problem with Rajya Sabha. There are certain elements, there are certain areas where you have to improve upon the function of Rajya Sabha. What are the ways by which you improve upon the functions of Rajya Sabha? What are the inherent problems with Rajya Sabha? You can just look into the way forward. One of the biggest problem today with Rajya Sabha is it is primarily used as a body where every party is trying to give a backdoor entry to all their politicians. That is not good. You can give backdoor entry, but not everything, because the primary idea of Rajya Sabha is being a house of elders. We want people who have got experience in different walks of life, be from literature, be from science, be from other areas of humanitarian and human rights activists, because they can bring in a lot of discussion in the house. Okay, so that's a primary weakness. And also see a number of people who have been nominated today. Say for example, Mr. Sachin Tendulkar was nominated, actress Rekha was nominated, and their attendance in the Rajya Sabha has been abysmally low. So I have given the examples. Say for example, in case of Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, how many days he has been in the house? He has been just attended the house for 32 days over his entire term. And similarly, the same is in case of actress Rekha. She has attended just 18 days. So that means we need, the government has to take due attention, or the political parties has to take due attention as to whom they are appointing and whether they are really caring for the people. They should be in a position to engage in a lot of discussions. Okay, that is another point. And then critics also say that it is better that there is a need for a domicile requirement. What do you mean by need for a domicile requirement? Today, is it possible for someone from the state of say let us assume state of Punjab to get elected in Rajya Sabha from Assam? Is it possible, or he has to be from the state of Assam to get elected to Rajya Sabha from the state of Assam? Today there is no need for domicile requirement, which has been done away with by the Supreme Court in the Kuldeep Nair case. But what the critics say is that when you say that the Rajya Sabha is to take care of the federal interest, it is better, because federal interest means they have to take care of the interest of that particular state. So it is better that there are domicile of that particular state, which has been done away by the Supreme Court. So you can also give your opinion that yes, there may be a domicile requirement. And one of the other criticism of the Rajya Sabha today is, of course, one of the primary function of Rajya Sabha is that they have to make the government accountable. So when we say that they have to make the government accountable, they have to be a very deliberative body. There should be a lot of discussions that should happen in Rajya Sabha. But unfortunately, in the 17th Lok Sabha time, during this particular time, there was a lot of disruptions in the Rajya Sabha. A lot of time has been wasted in the indisciplined activities of the members. So they should also reduce these indisciplinary activities. So these are all some of the suggestions that you may use, but ultimately the parliamentary democracy today in India, which has been declared to be the part of the basic structure, will not be complete without the Rajya Sabha playing its role. The Rajya Sabha has a very important and a central role, and that's exactly what is the relevance of Lok Sabha. So look into this particular question. I'm just coming back to the question again. See, look into this particular question. So the way that we have covered the answers should help you in answering all the all the relevant topics in this, all the relevant areas in this particular question. Look into the question again. The Rajya Sabha is not merely a house of second thought. So Rajya Sabha has not been given a secondary importance. It's not a body merely of second thought. Rather, it is a guardian of state interests. That means they have to protect the federal interests. They are watchdog of the government, is how they are making the government accountable, and possess power to improve upon legislations. How they can also improve upon legislations through various powers that is given in the hands of the Rajya Sabha is what you will have to focus upon. So as I already said, your introduction can talk about bicameralism or parliamentary democracy, which is relevant to the particular question, but your body has to specifically focus upon how Rajya Sabha protect the federal interest, how the Rajya Sabha can make the government accountable, how the Rajya Sabha can improve upon the legislations. But this requires specific inputs like the relevant articles, relevant examples, the current examples, and then you conclude your answer. So how you can conclude your answer, which can be a way forward? While the Rajya Sabha has a very important role to play, but at the same time there are certain areas of concerns. Say for example, one is today there is no domicile requirement, or a lot of disruptions that is happening today, or the nominated members are not living up to the expectations. While these things has to be taken care, and that is when we can ensure that the Rajya Sabha plays a important role and thereby ensures the parliamentary democracy and its functioning. So anyway you can conclude, but in a way forward always try to give some kind of constructive argument when you complete this particular answer. All right. So now come to the question number 2, which can also be answered from the same content that I have discussed. Okay. So look into the question number 2. So just read this particular question for a moment and how you can decode this particular question. So today I will discuss the topic, but when you come tomorrow, the first thing that I will do is, for the students who came late and the students who joined late in the online also. So today I will cover 3-4 topics, and when you come to the class tomorrow, the first thing that we will do for the first half an hour is we will give you 3 questions. In half an hour you will have to write answers to those 3 questions, and then again I will discuss very quickly, very briefly these 3 questions. So in this way, in around 20 lectures, I will also make you write around 60 to 70 answers as a part of this particular program, because the biggest problem for the students today is that they don't write answers, and without writing the answers, it becomes extremely difficult for them to do well in the mains examination. Okay, so that's why the course has been devised in such a way. Okay, have a look into the question number 2. The functions of Rajya Sabha in strengthening the fundamentals of our parliamentary democracy. So here again the question is about the functions of Rajya Sabha. The functions of Rajya Sabha in strengthening the fundamentals of our parliamentary democracy becomes even more necessary today. Analyze the statement in the context of prevailing political scenario in the country. See, it's almost what you have seen earlier. It is the same question, but it has been put in a different way. First the students have to ask what is asked in the question. So look into the question again. The functions of Rajya Sabha in strengthening the fundamentals of our parliamentary democracy. So what are the essence of our parliamentary democracy? The essence of parliamentary democracy and how that essence of parliamentary democracy is related to the functions of the Rajya Sabha. If you see, the very idea of parliamentary democracy is to make the government accountable. Government accountability to the legislature. That means The executive accountable to the legislature is the very essence of the parliamentary democracy. So when I talk of that accountability, it can be a financial accountability. It can be how they strengthen legislations. So that is the primary thing. It is also very important in a parliamentary democracy that the principle of federalism is respected. What do you mean by the principle of federalism? That means the interests of the states are protected. So try to understand, when you talk of this particular question, the functions of Rajya Sabha in strengthening the fundamentals of parliamentary democracy, how by performing the functions, how by performing its function, Rajya Sabha is able to make the government accountable. How by performing its functions, Rajya Sabha is able to effectively take care of the various laws, which is also an important thing in parliamentary democracy. In a parliamentary democracy, they should also take care as to the bills are elaborately discussed and all those things. How in a parliamentary democracy the idea of federalism is protected? Does the Rajya Sabha has a relevance in all these areas? The Rajya Sabha of course has got relevance in all these areas, and that is especially important in the prevailing political scenario. So how that is exactly relevant in the prevailing political scenario? When I talk of the prevailing political scenario, you try to understand, try to go back and see at least in the last one decade. In the last decade, what is the problem that you see in our country? Do not see presently. You'll have to just go back at least one decade and try to analyze in the prevailing political scenario. That means in the recent past. In the recent past, what is the major issue with regard to our political system? Okay, is there a problem where the center is trying to assert and try to encroach the powers of the states? Or is there any center-state conflict in the recent past? There's a lot of conflict between the center and the states. So for example, the parliament has enacted the farm laws, where the state said that the parliament does not have the power to do that. There was GST issues between the center and the states. So number of center-state conflict has happened. And when this center-state conflict is happening, is there any way that the Rajya Sabha can protect the interest of the states collectively? So even more it has become important in the prevailing political context of our country. And there is a muscular government. What does it mean by muscular government in the last 10 years? When I say muscular government, a government has got enormous majority in the Lok Sabha. When the government has got enormous majority in the Lok Sabha, then the opposition voice becomes very weak in the Lok Sabha. And then who extremely become useful at that point of time when it comes to discussion on various bills and all those things? The Rajya Sabha has got an important role to play. So that is why you'll have to understand. And similarly, by raising a lot of questions and all those things. As I already said, in the 17th Lok Sabha, a lot of questions has been asked in the Rajya Sabha than in the Lok Sabha. Okay? So you can take all these points when the government has full majority in the Lok Sabha, or when they are trying to assert their power over the states, then extremely the Rajya Sabha has got an important role to play. It's more or less the same type of question, the same type of answer, but it has been put in a different format. Alright, so with that we are done with the first topic, relevance of Rajya Sabha, very very important topic for your mains examination. Alright, so we'll just move to the second topic, which is, I would say, is also a very important topic. Alright, so come to the second topic. Any questions from the previous topic? Relevance of Rajya Sabha? Okay, so come to the next topic, that is the presiding officer, which is a very very important topic. Every year UPSC asks a question from the presiding officer. And in the presiding officer, the speaker is the most important topic. Why the speaker is very important this year also? Can anyone tell me? Why the speaker topic is very important for the examination this year? every time, so today we are in the 18th Lok Sabha. The 18th Lok Sabha, Mr. Om Birla was elected as a speaker. But every Lok Sabha, the speaker is there. The speaker is appointed. So what was so controversial this year? Why it is even more highlighted in the news this year? Any idea, Lakya, why it was even more relevant this year? Or what is the significance of this year about the election of the speaker? See, never ever in the history of India, after the commencement of the constitution, the election of speaker has happened. This is the first time in the last 70 years, the election of speaker has happened. 1950 we had the constitution. After 1950, for the last 74 years, never ever the speaker of election happened. Then you can ask me that how the speaker is elected. The speaker was elected largely on the basis of consensus. But the election did not happen. This is the first time the election of the speaker has happened. That is because of reason what? That there is a strong opposition. Today there is a strong opposition. That opposition said that we will also contest the election. And because they also said they will contest the election, then the election happened. The election happened, and then ultimately Om Birla was elected as the speaker. So it becomes very important for you this year. But otherwise also the presiding officer, when we talk of the presiding officer, speaker is a very, very important topic. Okay, one is the election has happened, so I say that it becomes even significant this year. But otherwise also, why is the post of the speaker very important? He is a, of course, it is one of his power, he has got the casting vote. But otherwise, what is the significance of the post of speaker? Does the speaker represent the ruling party, or is he supposed to be a very neutral person? He is supposed to be a, he does not resign. He does not resign. There is no need to resign as per the constitution. If he resigns, that it is well and good, but not even a single speaker in the entire history of India has resigned from the political party. They continue to be a member of political party, and the constitution does not prohibit that. The constitution does not say that they have to resign. But all that the constitution wants is that the speaker has to be a neutral person. And you also know that the speaker is what? He is the chair of the Lok Sabha. In the Lok Sabha, who is the chairperson? Who is the presiding officer of Lok Sabha? It is the speaker. And constitutionally, although he doesn't have to resign, but constitutionally he is supposed to function as an impartial and a neutral person. So why this topic is very important is because of the fact, what if the speaker is not acting neutrally and impartially? That is the question. He is supposed to act what? He is supposed to act neutrally and impartially. But the question is, what if he is not acting neutrally and impartially? Will it have any implications upon the parliamentary democracy? And this is the most important area. Suppose if the speaker is not acting neutrally and impartially, will it have any implications upon the functioning of our parliamentary democracy? You don't have to give me the points, but just tell me, will it have any negative implications? Implications here means largely a negative implication. Will it have any implications upon our parliamentary democracy? Ilakya? What is your name? Sudeep. Sudhir. Will it have any implications upon our parliamentary democracy? Suppose if the speaker is not functioning neutrally and impartially, or will it not have any implications? It will have a lot of negative implications, which you will understand. But before we understand as to how the position of the speaker and how the functions of the speaker, if it is not neutral and impartial, what kind of negative implications it may have on our parliamentary democracy is a very, very important thing. It may be, it has been asked and it will be asked again. Maybe this year, next year, and this is one area where a lot of questions has been asked. So, but before we understand, suppose if he is not functioning neutrally and in a neutral and an impartial manner, what kind of implications it may have upon the Indian democracy? First, we'll have to understand some of the constitutional dimensions. First, we'll have to understand some of the constitutional dimensions of the speaker. And then his powers and functions. Sometimes a very easy conventional question can also be asked, what are the various powers and functions of the speaker? Does the constitution provides a lot of powers and functions to the speaker? Of course it provides. And then there is a lot of constitutional provisions dealing with speaker also. And most importantly, now try to understand, there are a lot of constitutional protection to the speaker, his powers, and it is giving a lot of powers and functions. Does the constitution provides as a part of the constitutional dimensions, is there anything that is there in the constitution which protects the independence of the speaker? Is there any constitutional dimensions that provides independence to the speaker? Now again the question is, what is the need to provide independence to the speaker? Independence means that the speaker is usually elected from which party? Today Mr. Om Birla is from which party? He is from which party? He is from the ruling party, he is from the BJP party, he is from the ruling party, and he has not resigned from the ruling party. He continues to be a member of the ruling party. In fact, I remember this particular statement which was made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi during his speech to address the motion of thanks, after the president has made the address, in the written speech, Mr. Rahul Gandhi has made a remark against Mr. Om Birla. Does anyone recollect, has anyone seen this particular speech, which has now gone viral across the entire country, even outside India also? That while concluding his remarks, Mr. Rahul Gandhi said that, Mr. Speaker, that the other day when I shook hand with you, you were very straight, you were very stiff. But then when you shook hands with the Prime Minister of India, you bow your head in front of the Prime Minister. So he said that it is unbecoming of the Speaker and his position. Now Mr. Om Birla replied that in our tradition that we always respect the elders. That is what Mr. Om Birla has replied when Mr. Rahul Gandhi was making this remark against the Speaker, and for which again Mr. Rahul Gandhi said that it's good tradition that you respect the elders, but here in this particular house, the constitution says you are the supreme authority. And occupying the supreme authority, you should not even bow your head against the Prime Minister, because as per the Constitution of India, how you have to function? You have to function in a neutral and an impartial manner. So in order to ensure this neutrality and impartiality, is there any independence that is given to the Speaker? Does the Constitution protect him? We will try to understand that also. Okay, so this is the dimension that we will understand. Once we understand this particular dimension, you can answer any question that can come from this particular topic. For this year, students who are writing the mains examination, who are watching it online or who will be later watching it, this particular program in the YouTube, I am very sure that there is going to be a question from Speaker this year, definitely. And it is otherwise not just because what is happening, otherwise also Speaker is a very, very important post in a parliamentary democracy, because the Speaker function has a lot of implications upon our parliamentary democracy. So let me just quickly go through the constitutional dimensions of the post of the Speaker. You know that after every Lok Sabha is elected, the first thing that will happen is the Speaker of the Lok Sabha has to be elected. And as per the Constitution of India, the Speaker is elected by simple majority. What is the majority that is required? Simple majority. The Speaker is elected by a simple majority, and the election of the Speaker will be conducted by the Speaker Pro Tem. There's a person called as Speaker Pro Tem. He conducts the election based on the day that is decided by the President. And this time also the election has happened, and who was elected as a Speaker? Mr. Om Birla was elected as a Speaker. After he is elected, then the Speaker Pro Tem ceased to exist. That is all fine. Now, if you look into the constitutional dimensions, once somebody is elected as a speaker, the speaker has lot of powers and functions, which is given by the constitution also, which is given by the rules of the house also. It is not that everything or all the powers which is exercised by the speaker directly comes from the constitution. Certain powers he exercises from the rules of the house. Rules of the house means the rules of the Lok Sabha. Because as per the constitution of India, with regard to the house, who is having the power to make rules? Who can make rules for the Lok Sabha? The speaker can make rules, and through that rules he receives a lot of powers. And certain powers are entrusted upon him by the constitution also. Okay, so have a look into your notes quickly. We'll try to understand that what are the various powers and functions. There were instances where UPSC asked, like, what are the various powers and functions of the speaker. Okay, so such conventional questions can also be asked. So as we'll proceed, what we'll do is we'll touch upon the conventional topics also. We'll touch upon certain current events to that also, and we'll try to solve all the questions in this way. So he is the final authority to decide the conduct of the house, and he is authority to ensure the decorum of the house. So what does it mean that he is a final authority to conduct the business of the house? As per the Constitution of India, it is the speaker for him to decide as to what shall be the various business that can be carried out in the house. When I say various business, what are the various business that is carried out in the house? When to ask the questions, when to raise various motions, when to introduce the bill, when to have the debate. Who is the final authority to decide all these things? It is the speaker. And it is the speaker who is also the final authority to ensure the decorum in the house. What does it mean by to ensure decorum in the house? He is also the final authority to ensure the discipline in the house. When any of the members of the house are doing anything indisciplined, then he also has the power to adjourn the house. He has the power to suspend the members. So all these powers are to the speaker. Now the second thing is, he is also the final authority to make and to interpret the rules. If there is any confusion with regard to the rules, if there is any confusion with regard to the clarity of the rules, who is the final authority to interpret the rules? It is the speaker. The speaker is the final authority. So this power is given to him under the constitution. So both the powers are given to him under the constitution. The speaker is also the final authority to allow for the introduction of what is called as the no confidence motion. So what do you understand by the no confidence motion? And what does it mean by the no confidence motion? To introduce a motion to see whether the government is having the majority or not. Now, without the permission of the speaker, the no confidence motion cannot be introduced. That's again very important thing. Now, this power is not in the constitution, because there is no mention of no confidence motion in the constitution. It is as per the rules of the house. So it is as per the rule number 198 of Lok Sabha. Okay, so you try to understand that there are certain powers which is there under the constitution, there are certain powers under the rules. And then he exercises the power to expunge any part of parliamentary proceedings. Has anyone heard of the expunging any part of parliamentary proceedings? And of late it has been there in the news for a lot of reasons. Mr. Rahul Gandhi made a severe criticism against the government. If you have watched his speech, he made a lot of attack against the Prime Minister, the political party, the RSS, and which is exactly the duty of leader of opposition. In a democracy, the leader of opposition has to act as the voice of the people. So he made a lot of criticism against the functioning. On the very next day, there was a news article regarding this. And the speaker, Mr. Om Birla, said that he is going to expunge a lot of speech or remarks which is made by Mr. Rahul Gandhi because they are not factually right. And he is going to expunge means what? Expunge means whatever is spoken by Mr. Rahul Gandhi will not be part of the official records. It is not everything will be removed, but certain part of his speech will be removed from the official record of the Lok Sabha. And that is basically what is called as expunging. The same has happened for Mr. Karge also. Mr. Karge, who is the leader of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, he also made a lot of criticism against the Prime Minister. There also the chairman of Rajya Sabha said that he is going to expunge a lot of portions of speech of Mr. Karge. That means who is the final authority to expunge these things? It is the speaker. The speaker has the power to do that in the Lok Sabha. The chairman has the power to do that in the Rajya Sabha. So again try to understand that this is again the power of the speaker. So they can do that. And then the speaker has the power to certify a bill as a money bill. So who is the final authority to certify a bill as a money bill? Speaker, you know that. Now the question is, if the Speaker is certifying a bill as a money bill, will it have any implications upon our parliamentary democracy? How a Speaker certifying a bill as a money bill will have an implications upon the parliamentary democracy? How the power of the Speaker to interpret the rules will have implications upon the democracy? How the power of the Speaker to allow for a no confidence motion will have an implication upon the democracy? So this is how we'll have to link between his powers and functions, and in case if he is not acting neutrally, if he is acting neutrally, no problem. If he is not acting neutrally, what kind of implications it may have on our parliamentary democracy? It will definitely have a lot of implications. Say for example, if the Speaker is certifying the bills as a money bill, which he is not supposed to do. Suppose let us assume that under Article 110 of the Constitution, it provides certain subject matters. Only if those subject matters are there, the bill should be certified as a money bill. But in the 17th Lok Sabha and even before that, so for example, the Aadhaar bill was certified as a money bill, which is beyond the scope of Article 110. And certain other bills have also been certified. Say for example, amendment to certain laws like the Prevention of Money Laundering Act has been certified as money bill. Now once a bill is certified as a money bill, the Speaker is a final authority. Within the House, nobody can challenge it. Maybe they can go to the court and challenge it, but within the House, nobody can change it. But suppose if a bill is not to be certified as a money bill, and if that bill is certified as a money bill, what implications it will have on democracy? By certifying a bill as a money bill, then you are silencing the entire Rajya Sabha. You are depriving the powers of Rajya Sabha, and provided if the government is having a majority in the Lok Sabha, but if they are not having a majority in the Rajya Sabha, then what the government can do? The government can just tell the Speaker to certify this bill as money bill, and thereby you are completely depriving the Rajya Sabha of its power. So will it have a great implications upon the democracy? It does has a lot of implications upon the democracy. And with regard to the money bill, the Rajya Sabha does not have equal powers. Even if they have equal powers, it's okay. The Rajya Sabha does not have equal powers. So can this power be abused by the Speaker? So that is why it's very important that the Speaker acts what? The Speaker acts as a neutral and an impartial person. Unless and until he acts as a neutral and an impartial person. I'll take another instance. Say for example, the opposition wanted to introduce a no confidence motion. Today we have a very unstable government. I wouldn't say it is an unstable government, but today we have a government which does not have majority on its own. It may be a stable government or an unstable government, but it does not have a majority of its own. So it is well within the right of the opposition to test whether the government is having the majority or not, for which the opposition at any point of time can introduce what is called as a no confidence motion. But as per the rules of the House, this no confidence motion can be introduced only with the permission of whom? Speaker. What if the Speaker is not giving the permission? If he is acting as a neutral person, if he is acting as an independent person, he should give the permission. But what if he is not acting as an independent person? Will it have an implication upon the democracy? So I'm just giving the examples. Now, what if he is expunging a lot of content of the ruling party? Of the opposition party. See, as a future generation, they should know what kind of debates have happened in the past. Now, why these debates are recorded? Because the future generations should know. Today, we are aware of what is there in the Constituent Assembly debates. That's because these debates are recorded. So, similarly, whatever happens in the parliament are recorded. Expunging too much things is also not good. Okay? So, if it is factually not right, yes, the Speaker can do that or the chairman can do that. What are the other implications? Say, for example, he is a final authority to interpret the rules, and he is authority to suspend the members. What if he is suspending all the members of the opposition party? Will it have an impact upon the functioning of democracy? See, if suppose a bill is introduced in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha, if the members are not happy, if they are engaging in some kind of discussion, on the grounds of unruly behavior, the Speaker or the chairman can suspend the members. Once they suspend the members, then they can get the bill easily passed. So suspension is a power which they can also use, which may have an impact upon the parliamentary democracy. And then the Speaker is also the authority to preside over the joint sitting. So that is again his particular power. The most important thing of all the things today is the Speaker is authority to disqualify members on the grounds of anti-defection law. Today this is the biggest problem. The speaker is a disqualifying authority in case of anti-defection law. I hope you have an understanding of what is the anti-defection law, the basic idea. So anti-defection law is basically trying to prevent what is called as the political defections. And the punishment for political defection, anti-defection law itself is a big topic, which I'll deal. The next topic is anti-defection law, I think. So the anti-defection law is trying to prevent what is called as political defections. And in case of political defections, the members can be disqualified. So that's basically what is this anti-defection law. Now the punishment for the defection is disqualification. So who is the disqualifying authority under the Constitution today? It is the speaker. It is a presiding officer. In case of Lok Sabha, it is a speaker. In case of Rajya Sabha, it is the chairman. So will it have any implications upon the parliamentary democracy? Will it have any implications if this power is misused? This power is today, to a lot of extent, it's mostly misused by the speaker, not only at the union legislature but also in various states. How it is misused? The example I can give you, number of examples. The example that I can give you, before giving the examples, let me explain as to how it is misused. Why I am saying today it is misused is because of the fact that there is no time limit within which the speaker has to act. Whenever there is any defection, is there any time limit for the speaker to act? There is no time limit in the Constitution. So suppose let us assume that there are two parties. One is the ruling party and another is the opposition party. The ruling party, what it is doing, the ruling party is benefiting from defections, let us assume. When I say that the ruling party is benefiting from the defection, which means that some of the members of the opposition party is joining the ruling party. So who is benefiting out of this? The ruling party is benefiting. So the opposition party will file a petition for disqualifying these members to the speaker. But in this case, the speaker is not acting because the speaker is from which party? The ruling party. The ruling party is benefiting out of this defection. So the speaker does not act. And ultimately it is benefiting whom? It is benefiting the ruling party because constitutionally there is no time limit for the speaker to act. And where there is no time limit for the speaker to act, nothing prevents the speaker from acting or not acting. Suppose let us assume the position is contrary. The position is from the ruling party there is defection to the opposition party. From the ruling party they are joining the opposition party. So which is affecting the ruling party. So the ruling party is filing a petition to the speaker to disqualify them, and the speaker is immediately acting and disqualifying. So here will it have an impact upon the democracy if he is not neutral? And in fact I'll give you examples. Say in Manipur, few years back there was a defection. There was a defection from the Congress to the BJP party. So the petition was filed. The speaker did not act almost for a period of 2 years. For 2 years the speaker did not disqualify these people who have defected. And ultimately then later the court came. The court came and disqualified some of the members. So is it a grave misuse of the speaker powers? And this anti-defection law, will it have any implications upon the parliamentary democracy? Of course it has a lot of implications upon the parliamentary democracy. So this is the way that you have to understand and write answers for these questions. So now try to understand, constitutionally the speaker is elected, but as per the constitution the speaker doesn't have to resign from his post. In other words, he doesn't have to resign from the party. In fact, when you said that the speaker resigns from the party, there is no need for him. And in fact, there is not even a single speaker who have resigned from their party. But all that the constitution wants is, the constitution wants the speaker to function neutrally. There is no need for him to resign. But unfortunately, in India, the speaker failed to act neutrally. Not only they do not resign from the party, they fail to act neutrally and impartially, and it has a lot of implications while exercising their powers and functions for parliamentary democracy. Now, recognizing this, the constitution wanted the speaker should have some independence so that they function neutrally. So what are the various provisions in the constitution that ensures the independence of the speaker? First of all, in order to ensure the independence of the speaker, he has been given only what is called as casting vote. What do you understand by casting vote? What do you mean by casting vote? Casting vote means he does not have the power to vote in the first instance. That means he can exercise only when there is a tie. Okay, that is one element where there can be some element of neutrality. So what are the other areas where to provide independence to him? His salary is charged upon the consolidated fund of India. So what does it mean? His salary is charged upon the consolidated fund of India means even the parliament does not have the authority to reduce his expenditure. Okay, although it may be discussed, but it cannot be voted upon. And then he can be removed only by an effective majority. His removal is only by an effective majority means, that means although the speaker is elected by simple majority, his removal is by effective majority means most likely even the government alone cannot remove the speaker. So today Mr. Om Birla, let us assume he is functioning neutrally. If he is functioning neutrally, which may not be liked by, let us assume, the Prime Minister or by the BJP party. Just a hypothetical example. I am not saying which may not be liked by the Prime Minister. I am not putting any criticism, but to explain this particular case, I am just giving a hypothetical example. So let us assume the BJP party and the government is planning to remove Mr. Om Birla. Can they remove Mr. Om Birla on their own? Is it possible? Not possible, because the BJP party does not even have a simple majority. Leave over the effective majority. That means they also need the support of the opposition. So this is to ensure that the speaker functions neutrally. Once he is elected, he may not be removed even by the ruling party. And then the most important thing is, as per the Constitution of India, the speaker, once he gets elected, if he wants, he can resign from the party. And if he resigns from the party, he is not liable to be disqualified under the anti-defection law. So normally what the anti-defection law says, if somebody voluntarily gives up a party membership, he or she is liable to be disqualified. But that does not apply to a person who got elected as the speaker. So all these things are important protection to ensure the independence of the office of the speaker. And despite these independence, and because he exercises a lot of powers and functions, and if he not exercising his powers and functions neutrally, will it have an implications upon the parliamentary democracy? Of course, it will have an implication upon the parliamentary democracy. Now the question is, what is the way forward? How to improve upon the position of the speaker so that he functions independently and neutrally, so that there is no negative implications upon the democracy. So look into some of the way forward which is given in your notes. So some of the implications also, I have given some examples, because specific examples are needed when you write the answers, as I already said in the previous case. So for example, when the bill is certified as a money bill, will it have an implications upon the speaker? Sorry, will it have an implications upon the parliamentary democracy? So for example, the Aadhaar bill, the amendment to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, they all have been certified as a money bill. And the speaker is a final authority to interpret the rules and to ensure discipline and decorum. When he is a final authority, he is also the authority to refer a bill to a standing committee or not to refer a bill to a standing committee when a bill is introduced. You know that whenever a bill is introduced, after the introduction stage, the next stage is it goes to what is called as the standing committee, referral to standing committee. Now why these bills are referred to the standing committee? Normally the bills are referred to the standing committee because it allows for a broader discussion on that particular bill. It goes for a very deliberative discussions on these areas, and that's why the bill is referred to the standing committees. Now it is for the speaker whether to refer it or not to refer it. Sometimes it is not mandatory. During the prelims lecture and based on your understanding what you have prepared for the prelims, you might understand that referring the bills to the standing committee is not mandatory. If the government wanted to bypass it, it can bypass it through the speaker. So if the speaker bypasses referring the bill to the standing committee, will it have any impact upon the parliamentary democracy? The discussion is missed out. The deliberations on that particular bill is missed out. So say for example, in the 15th Lok Sabha, if you see, 71% of the bills introduced in the Lok Sabha has been referred to the standing committee. But whereas the same data for the 16th Lok Sabha, the same data for the 17th Lok Sabha, it is only 16%. It is only 16% means that out of the bills which is introduced in the Lok Sabha, how many bills has been referred to the standing committee? Only 16% of the bills. That means a lot of bills are missed out on discussions and deliberations, which is very essential for proper functioning of the democracy. There has been suspensions of the opposition leaders, and one such leader is Mr. Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. Why this particular leader is crucial? He was the leader of the largest opposition party. In the previous Lok Sabha, for the Congress, he was on. Today it is Mr. Rahul Gandhi. And expunging of powers of the parliamentary committees, again the speaker has a power to expunge. So in all these areas, their functioning can have an impact upon the parliamentary democracy. So what is the way forward? The way forward is how to ensure the independence of the office of the speaker. So as long as the speaker is independent, as long as the speaker is functioning in a neutral manner, it may have a lot of implications upon the parliamentary democracy. So how are we going to make the speaker more neutral and impartial in terms of the functioning? There is a saying in UK that is, once a speaker is always a speaker. And it's a parliamentary convention that they follow. Can we follow such tradition? Can we recommend that? Once a speaker is always a speaker. What does it mean, once a speaker is always a speaker? Ilakya, you were there in the prelims class. I already told. Do you remember? Once a speaker is always a speaker. What is a tradition? Once a speaker is always a speaker. Does anyone remember? Once a speaker, always a speaker means there is a tradition in United Kingdom. What is this particular tradition in United Kingdom? This tradition in United Kingdom is that somebody is chosen as a speaker, he resigns from the party. Why he resigns from the party? Because he wanted to function as a neutral person. But if he resigns from the party, then what happens is his connection is severed with the party. There is no surety that again that party will give him ticket in the next election. So in order to ensure his political career, in the next election also he will contest election, and wherever he is contesting the election, nobody will contest the election. And he will automatically get elected to the house, and if he get elected to the house and if he wants to become a speaker, then nobody else will contest to the post of the speaker. In this way, once somebody becomes a speaker, he will always remain as a speaker till his death, and as long as he want to be a speaker. So once he knows that once he is a speaker, always a speaker, will it help him to function more neutrally? Will it help him to function more independently? What do you think? Once a speaker is always a speaker, will this tradition help them to function more independently, more neutrally? So there are many committees which has recommended that in India also we should follow the same convention. That is, once a speaker should always be a speaker. That is one thing that you can recommend. The Supreme Court in one of the recent cases, that is in the Kaisam Mehachandra Singh case versus the Honorable Speaker Manipur, the Supreme Court said that the speaker should not delay much whenever a anti-defection law petition is filed in front of him. The speaker should decide the case within a period of 3 months. Will it can also go a long way in misusing this particular, preventing the misusing of the powers? Because under the constitution today there is no time limit for the speaker. But what the Supreme Court said? The Supreme Court said that the speaker has to exercise his power and decide the petition within a period of 3 months. In fact, the Supreme Court also said one more thing in this particular case. First of all, the Supreme Court was not happy giving this power to the speaker. The Supreme Court said that this power may be given to the independent tribunals instead of giving the power to the speaker, because this power is ultimately misused by the speaker. So the Supreme Court is of the opinion, if you decide it within 3 months, or otherwise it is better let the power itself be given to an independent tribunal. Independent tribunal who is usually headed by a Supreme Court judge, a retired Supreme Court judge. So what do you think? This power should remain with the speaker, or it is better it is given to an independent tribunal? Which would be better? What do you think, Ilakya? Which would be better? Independent tribunal, which anyways, which will make the more speaker more independent. And then, in fact, G.V. Maulankar, the first speaker of India, he said that once a speaker is elected, he is expected to be above party politics. He is expected to be above parties and party politics. Yes, he is a presiding person. He is a chairperson in that particular house, that is in the Lok Sabha. He should not look into petty politics. He should perform his constitutional mandate. he should perform in an independent and an impartial manner. He is not just a speaker for the ruling party, he is speaker for the entire Lok Sabha, which includes both what? Which includes both the ruling as well as the opposition party. In fact, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, during his speech in the Lok Sabha few days back, he said that what is more important for the speaker to look into is not the efficiency of the house. So in fact, he said that in the name of the efficiency of the house, you cannot curtail the voice of the opposition, because the voice of the opposition represents the voice of the people. And because the voice of the opposition represents the voice of the people, what is more important in a political democracy is giving them an opportunity to give their to express as to what they represent and express as what the people think, rather than just silencing the opposition in the name of the efficiency of the house, which in his words is anti-democratic. Okay. And then if you see further thing, in fact the first Prime Minister of India, he said that the speaker represents the entire freedom of nation and the liberty of the nation. Because why the speaker represent that? Because it is a speaker who gives the opportunity for the opposition members to speak. As long as opposition members are not allowed to speak, then how the voice of the people will be heard? Because parliament is nothing but what? Parliament is an institution which represents the people of India. And the people of India, we do not have a direct democracy, we are an indirect democracy. And indirectly people elect the representatives, and the representatives have to voice the concern of the people. And which has to be, where an important role has to be played by the speaker. And in fact, a critical remark was made by Arvind P. Dattar, who is a advocate in the Supreme Court in various high courts. So he said that the speaker from the ruling party is like an umpire from the batting side. What an umpire from the batting side can do? He can be very biased. So a speaker from the ruling party is from an umpire from the batting side. That means he is trying to say that once somebody is elected as a speaker, he should resign from the party and try to be a neutral person. Okay. So these are all some of the way forward that you can use. Okay. So now try to understand, when you look into the question of the speaker, what type of questions can come. Questions can come directly from the conventional areas, asking you the powers and functions. The speaker has lot of powers, which is both coming from the constitution as well as from the rules of the house. Do you agree? Does the speaker have powers from the constitution as well as from the rules of the house? So constitutional powers means joint sitting, certifying the bills as money bills. Then he is also the authority to expunge. So these are all some of the constitutional powers. What are from the rules? His authority to interpret the rules, suspend the members, issue notices in case of breach of privileges. He is also the authority to introduce a no confidence motion. So these are all from the rules. So questions can come, comment on the various powers and functions of the speaker, which is a very conventional question. Or questions can come as to how, if the speaker is not functioning neutrally and impartially, what kind of implications it may have on parliamentary democracy. So will it have an implication? Of course it will have an implication, but what is very important here is, see, I have given a lot of examples. So you'll have to try to make use of these examples when you write the answer. Alright. So just come to the question. So based on the discussion. So one of the important part of this particular class is how we are trying to use our knowledge. How we are trying to use the knowledge to solve the answers and to write the answers. That is what is more important. Okay, look into the question here. Try to answer, try to look into this particular question. What are the implications in a parliamentary democracy if the speaker fails to function independently and impartially? What are the implications in a parliamentary democracy if the speaker fails to function independently and impartially? So will it have an implications? So how do we structure this particular question? So let me just quickly do that particular exercise also. Okay, so look into this particular question. So, what are the implications in a parliamentary democracy if the speaker fails to function independently and impartially? Now again, let me just try to break the question. See, when it comes to answer writing, students mostly ask me whether we have to do it in a paragraph format or in a point format. There's no hard and fast rule whether you have to do it in a point format or a paragraph format. It depends upon what is your strength. If you're good, if you're capable of writing in a very concise manner, you can go for paragraph also. Because the biggest problem with the paragraph format is most of the students will not be do it in a very concise format. So you can go for point also if that is not your strength. Or it can be a hybrid model. It can be a combination of both paragraph as well as a point format. Wherever paragraph is better, you can do that. Wherever point you can deliver it better, you can do it in point. But whether you do it in paragraph format or in point format, what is important is try to use a lot of value additions in your answers. When I say value additions, the examples, the relevant articles, the relevant case laws from the Supreme Court. When it comes to G.S.Paper-Ii, I'm talking about G.S.Paper-Ii. If you are able to make any schematic representation, diagrammatic representation, flow charts, so try to do all those things, but remember one thing in your mind. Now all these things cannot be done in the examination hall unless and until you practice it when you write the answers. You practice it when you make the notes. You can only just reproduce there in the examination hall. Yes, when you start doing it, there can be some element of, I would say, improvisation which can happen in the examination hall, but you cannot do it from the scratch in the examination hall. Okay, so that's very important. So try to practice it right now. Okay, again, if you look into this particular question, I would say that introduction part. So the question is revolving around what? The implications for parliamentary democracy if the speaker fails to function independently and impartially. So your introduction can talk about the speaker, I would say, and briefly about his powers and functions. You don't have to explain everything. You can just say that speaker is one of the important constitutional office and he has been entrusted with a lot of powers both under the constitution as well as the rules of the house, and it does have a lot of implications upon the parliamentary democracy. Now the second thing is, and you can also talk here, the speaker is supposed to function neutrally, failing which is a lot of implications. So here what are the implications? It's the body part. So here you can give a lot of points. So what are the implications if he reserves the bill as money bill? What kind of implications? What if he is not allowing for no confidence motion? What if he is, let us assume that he is misusing his anti-defection law? What if he is misusing his rules because he is a final authority to interpret the rules? So for all these things, wherever possible, try to give an example. That is what is very important. And then finally, you can give a conclusion. So these can also be used as a side headings when you write the answers. If you are doing it in a point format, you can use a side headings, or if you are doing it in a paragraph format, you can make it as a paragraph also. It is up to you. And conclusion, you can say that while again the speaker has a very important role to play. In fact, the speaker is one of the important constitutional authority, and if the speaker does not function in an independent and impartial manner, it does have a lot of implications, and hence there are certain suggestions that can be followed to improve upon the position of speaker. Maybe you can say that we can follow the convention of United Kingdom, once a speaker is always a speaker, which could be a good beginning, or you can say any of the other recommendation also. It is up to you. So one or two recommendations are way forward, conclusions are way forward, could give a good ending so that it can get you that extra 1 mark or half a mark for every question. Alright. So come to the second question that I have talked about. The speaker has vast authority under the constitution and the rules of the house. It's a very direct question. So here again you can introduce about the speaker, you can directly come to the question and just say what are the various powers and, of the speaker. What are the powers from the constitution, what are the powers from the various rules, and then you conclude. So here you can just conclude saying that the speaker do have a lot of powers and functions, and the speaker functions have a lot of implications in a parliamentary democracy, and hence it is imperative that the speaker functions in a neutral and an impartial manner. Okay, so in that way you can conclude your answers. Alright, so we are done with 2 topics, and this year I feel definitely there can be a question from the speaker. Now the next topic that I wanted to move forward is the anti-defection law. So please come to the next topic, that is the anti-defection law. This will be the last topic for today's class, which will take me half an hour. So please pay attention, very important topic. It's a very conventional topic. It is not only relevant for this year, any year. Anti-defection law is very important. Most of you might have an idea as to how to about this anti-defection law, but we are trying to do it from the mains perspective. Okay. Okay, so to understand this also, it's better that we look into the question first, and then we'll come to this particular topic. So look into the question as to what is given in the anti-defection law. What do you understand by the anti-defection law? How can it be made more stronger and more impartial? So the question is quite clear and straightforward. What do you understand by anti-defection law? That means the first part of the question wanted you to explain what is your understanding of anti-defection law. That means you should not keep writing whatever you know about anti-defection law. You should only write the very crux of the anti-defection law. You can write an essay on anti-defection law. That doesn't mean that you would write it for 1,000 words because you know more about the anti-defection law. Maybe this part of your answer may be around 100 words about anti-defection law. And then the second part of the question is how can it be made more stronger and impartial, which means it is also giving an underlying impression in this particular question that the anti-defection law today is not impartial. Today it is not stronger. There are certain weak, I would say, links in the entire chain of the anti-defection law. That's exactly what you'll have to address. So can anyone tell me what are the weak links in the anti-defection law, or what are the issues in the anti-defection law today? That's exactly what you have to address in this particular question. What are the issues associated with the anti-defection law, and how are we going to address that anti-defection law? That's one area, along with the current examples and all those things. See, always your answer when it comes to the mains examination, UPSC is not going to ask an episode of current affairs, unless and until it is itself is a very important topic. Now, when it comes to anti-defection law, UPSC may not ask you how the anti-defection law happened in Maharashtra, or how the anti-defection happened in Manipur. They're all factual things. That is not the idea. But UPSC will expect a student to, in general, have an understanding of the anti-defection law and how this anti-defection law happened or applied in a specific example. So you'll have to always use these things for examples only. You don't have to make a lot of research with regard to the current affairs, but you should know the crux of those things. You don't even have to remember the timelines which is given in the paper. But how that examples can be incorporated as a part of your answer, that is what is important. Now come to the second question. Now, though the anti-defection law was brought with an intention of ensuring the stability of an elected government, it requires serious reforms. Do you agree with this? Now, what was the objective with which the anti-defection law was brought in? That was a beginning stage. You are right. You are right. That was a beginning. Before that, early 1960s, before that there was no defections. This AIR-337 episode happened in Haryana legislature, where a particular legislator defected multiple times in a day, and then he brought the government to collapse. He made the government unstable. So to prevent this, they brought in this anti-defection law to ensure political stability. But it requires serious reforms. Okay, it had a good intention of ensuring political stability, but today it suffers from a lot of problems. That means today it requires a little bit of reform. That is what the question is all about. So do you agree with this, that it requires a little bit of reform today, this anti-defection law? So that's exactly what you'll have to understand. Okay, so for which, if you look into this particular question, so what are the different dimensions we have to understand here? So first of all, when we talk of the anti-defection law, we'll have to understand the constitutional dimensions. So first we'll have to understand the constitutional dimensions of the anti-defection law. When I say constitutional dimensions, basically what do you understand by what is defection? What is defection as per the constitution? Is there any exceptions to defection, etc., etc.? So these are all the constitutional dimensions. That should be the first approach. Now, what was the reason, what is the rationality that this anti-defection law was brought in? There should be some reason as to why this law was brought in. Now, what are the various issues today? Issues presently with the anti-defection law. Issues that is presently associated with the anti-defection law. And then finally what we do? Issues presently with the anti-defection law, and then the last thing is we should also understand what kind of reforms. So once we touch upon all these things, which will also includes, as we'll discuss, the various case laws plus the examples. The current examples. Once we touch upon all these things, then you will be ready to answer any question that can come from this particular area. So when you talk of what is an anti-defection law, what is this, what is a constitutional dimension? Now today there is a specific schedule under the constitution which deals with this anti-defection law. What is this particular schedule? 10th schedule of the constitution, which was brought in by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act. It is the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1985 that came with this idea of what is this anti-defection law. And the entire details of this anti-defection law is given in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. So if you look into the 10th schedule of the Constitution, what it says, that it says that certain activities can be seen as defection. And what is the punishment for defection today? The punishment for defection is disqualification. They would be disqualified to be a member of parliament. This is the major objective is to ensure what is called as the stability of the government. In fact, the primary reason is that they wanted to bring in the political stability of the government. Because if people get elected from one party and then they move from one party to another party, then they will make the government really unstable. So in order to avoid this instability and to make the government more stable, they brought in this anti-defection law. As you rightly said, it happened after this Gaya-Ram episode. There was a legislator in Haryana called as Gaya Lal, who defected from multiple parties. So because of which he brought down certain governments, and then they thought there should be some way to prevent this political defection. So what do you mean by political defection? That's the first thing. What is a political defection? Political defection in general means, suppose if a person got elected from one political party, but after getting elected from that particular political party, he joins another political party. But here you'll have to understand only if he gets elected to a particular party, or in other words, only if he is part of the legislature party. That means not a member of political party, all will be subject to anti-defection. He is a member of political party, he contested the election from that particular party, he elected to the parliament or to the state legislature. Then if he joins another party, he is liable to be disqualified on the grounds of defection. So if you look into this anti-defection law, as per the 10th schedule, there are 4 ways that this defection can happen and they are liable to be disqualified. First thing is, if any member of a political party voluntarily gives up the party membership. So what does it mean by voluntarily gives up the party membership? So first thing is voluntarily giving up the party membership. So now the question is, voluntarily giving up party membership, does it only mean that they resign from the party, or does it mean more than that? Voluntarily giving up the party membership not only means resigning from the political party, but it is also based on the conduct of that particular individual. That is what the Supreme Court of India has said. The Supreme Court of India, which I have given in your handout also, in a case which is called as Ravi S. Nayak case, the Supreme Court said voluntarily giving up the party membership does not necessarily only mean resigning from the party, but it is based on the conduct of the individual. That means if the conduct of the individual is so that he continues to be in the same party, but his conduct is against the party, then that can also be considered to be voluntarily giving up the party membership. Okay, so it has a very broad dimension. It does not have a very narrow dimension in that. And then the second thing is, somebody acts contrary to party direction. When I say somebody acts contrary to party direction, means somebody is not voting as per the party direction, somebody is abstaining from voting. So in these cases also they can be disqualified. Okay, so these are for members who got elected from a particular party. Then the third thing is for an independent candidate. Who is an independent candidate? An independent candidate is someone who has not contested from any political party ticket. On his own he got elected. He may be really popular in a particular constituency, on his own he got elected. So he is an independent candidate. So an independent candidate should not join any political party during the term of that particular house. If he joins any political party, then he is liable to be disqualified. Then the fourth ground is for a nominated member. So who is a nominated member? Very good. So this nominated member is only in case of a Rajya Sabha, but it does not apply to all the 12 members. It applies to those nominated members at the time of their nomination. They do not belong to any political party. At the time of the nomination, if they are already a political party member, it's okay. But say for example, Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, nominated to Rajya Sabha, was he a member of any political party? He was not member of any political party. So if a nominated member who is not member of any political party, at the time of his nomination, if he wants to become a member of a political party, he can do so within 6 months. But if he is doing it after 6 months, then he is also liable to be disqualified. So this is what the anti-defection law says. But what is the primary objective of the entire anti-defection law? The primary objective is to ensure what is called as the political stability of the government, to ensure the moral content of democracy, because otherwise it will lead to the subversion of the entire democratic process. Will it lead to subversion of the entire democratic process? How it can lead to the subversion of the entire democratic process? Because I vote to a particular candidate because he belongs to a political party. What if he changes the political party after he is getting elected? He is subverting the entire democratic idea. Okay, so those members should be disqualified. That's the idea of the entire anti-defection law. Is that clear to all of you? So that is why this particular law has been brought in. And apart from that, as a political party, try to understand, as a political party, every political party gives a political manifesto before elections. And the political party, once they come to power, they have to implement this manifesto. And to implement this manifesto, all the members have to support it, to bring in law, to bring in various policies. So for which also the support of the members are required. So for all these reasons, the anti-defection law has been brought in. So today, if anybody is engaging any of these things, they are liable to be disqualified as per the anti-defection law. But the anti-defection law itself has given certain exceptions. So what are the exceptions that is given under the anti-defection law? In the original law, either it is 1/3 split or 2/3 merger. Today this 1/3 split does not exist no more. What is exempted today is only the 2/3 merger. So what does it mean by 2/3 merger? Joining the other party. Say for example in Maharashtra. Take the example of Maharashtra. In Maharashtra, what happened to the Shiv Sena party? There was an internal split within the party, and then they went and joined with whom? The BJP party, and then a new government is formed. So now the question is, I think out of 56 or 55 MLAs, around 37, 38 MLAs have gone. So that was equivalent to 2/3. But then the question is, what is the meaning of this 2/3 merger? Now try to understand, now Shiv Sena continues to be a separate political party. It has not merged itself with BJP party. So what is the meaning of this word merger? It is merely a crossover from one political party and joining with another political party, or the party which is splitting should merge with another party. The biggest problem today with regard to the anti-defection law is there is no definition of this particular word merger. It is not defined as to what amounts to merger. This is one of the biggest problem. So now what happens in most of the cases is the mere crossover of a political party members from one party to another party, and being a coalition partner itself is deemed to be a merger. But is that what is called as merger? Or they have to join with another party and give up their party membership. Is that a merger? It is not defined in the constitution. In fact, this matter is now pending in front of the Supreme Court. So these are all some of the problems today that we have got with regard to the anti-defection law. A classic example is the case of Maharashtra. You can correlate, which happened in the Shiv Sena case. Now what are the other issues with regard to the anti-defection law? The second most important issue is the discretion in the hands of the presiding officer. So what is the discretion in the hands of the presiding officer? I hope you all agree the discretion in the hands of the presiding officer. What is the discretion in the hands of the presiding officer? And there is no time limit for that. I have already given the example of Manipur. So this is how we'll have to give the examples. So what happened in case of Manipur before 3-4 years back, that some of the MLAs from from Congress defected to BJP. And then subsequently a petition was filed to the speaker. For 2 years the speaker did not act. And subsequently the court has to interfere. So that means there is a lot of discretion in the hands of the speaker which can be misused, and which can be used in favor of whom? The favor of the ruling party. So this is another problem. Not only this, the speaker of course has no time limit. The speaker can misuse this, and then there is no definition of what is called as the merger. So yes, there is a lot of problem that exists today with regard to the anti-defection law. On top of that, today if somebody is disqualified under the anti-defection law, let us assume, if somebody is disqualified under the anti-defection law, is he disqualified from contesting election? He is not disqualified from contesting election. If anybody is disqualified in the anti-defection law, there can be a by-election and he can contest in the by-election. He is not disqualified from contesting election. But try to understand, some recommendations are given. What is this recommendation is saying? That if in case if an MP is disqualified on conviction, let us assume, he is convicted in a court of law and he is disqualified for that, is there any restriction on how many years he is supposed to not contest? Very good. It is under the Representation of People Act 1951. He is not eligible to contest election. Suppose if he is convicted for 4 years, then after completing his 4 years term, he is not eligible for contesting election for another 6 years. That means for next 10 years, he will not be able to contest the election. Now, the constitutional experts are saying that why don't we bring in same disqualification in case of anti-defection law also? That if somebody is disqualified under the anti-defection law, you are immediately allowing him to contest the election. But why don't we put a ban upon his qualification to contest election for another 6 years? Will it make the law more stronger? Will the legislator fear defecting if this is there? So will it make defection more serious offense? Will it bring in a deterrence in the mind of the legislators not to defect? So this is one way you can bring it more stronger. Or the other way is, why don't you fix a time limit for the speaker to act, which is not there in the constitution? Why don't you amend the constitution and fix a time limit? The Supreme Court has already said 3 months, but it is not binding upon the speaker. It's only a non-implementable part. But once you amend the constitution, make it 3 months, it is binding upon the speaker. Now the next important recommendation to make it more stronger and impartial is that why don't you give this power to an independent tribunal, which already the Supreme Court has said. So in this way, there are a number of suggestions which has already been given. You can just look into a way forward. A lot of suggestions that has been given as to how this anti-defection law can be more stronger and impartial. So see that first is, why don't you define the term merger? Will it make the thing more stronger? Because today the definition of merger is not given in the constitution. Today this matter is pending in front of a larger bench, but it is always better to define the word merger. And disqualification from contesting by-elections and certain number of years. So anybody who's disqualified on the grounds of anti-defection law immediately is contesting in by-election. So that should not be allowed, and he should be prohibited from contesting election for few more years as well. So that can also be done. Restrict the case of no confidence motion. That's another thing. When I say restrict the case of no confidence motion, this is a recommendation that is given by Dinesh Goswami committee. He is saying today the anti-defection law is open to everything. What does it mean when I say the anti-defection law is open to everything? Today the anti-defection law is open to every single act of defection. So you should not apply this anti-defection law to everything. The anti-defection law should apply only in case of no confidence motion. That means only in case of no confidence motion, the MPs are bound to act by the direction which is given by the party. Otherwise, they should be free to act in their own capacity. And then it can be given to an independent speaker, it can be given to an independent tribunal, or we can follow the UK convention also, that the speaker resign from the party once he is becoming a speaker, because once if he resigns from the post of the speaker, then he becomes really independent. Okay, so these are all different suggestions that may be used as a part of the anti-defection law. There are some Supreme Court judgments also you can make use while writing the answers. Say for example, couple of judgments I'll just go through. So try to look into these particular judgments. Say for example, the Quixote-Hollown case. I think most of you might be aware of this particular case. This is a case where the anti-defection law was challenged in front of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court declared that the anti-defection law is valid. They said that the anti-defection law is valid because they have to ensure the stability of the government, and at the same time they also upheld the power which has been given to the speaker. But they said that the speaker act as a tribunal. That means any decision that will be taken by the speaker is subject to judicial review. That is not final. It is subject to judicial review. This is what has been held by the Quixote-Hollown case. Nabam Rabia case. This case is related to the incident that happened in the legislature of Arunachal Pradesh. In the Nabam Rabia case in 2016, the Supreme Court categorically said if there is a disqualification motion which is pending against a speaker, because a speaker can also be removed. We already seen what is the majority to remove the speaker? Effective majority. If there is any disqualification motion which is pending against the speaker, then in that particular case, the speaker shall not take up the anti-defection proceedings. He is not liable to do that. The deputy speaker will do that. And then in Keisham Meghachandra Singh case, the Supreme Court said 3 months time should be used by the speaker, not more than that particular time. But this is not a very binding aspect, but yes, Supreme Court has given a direction. And in KM Singh versus Speaker Manipur case, the Supreme Court again said that normally this power shall not be exercised by the speaker. Who shall exercise this power of anti-defection law? It shall be exercised by an independent tribunal. So as and when these cases, wherever it is possible, you can use it. Say for example, look into the first question. The question is asking what you understand by anti-defection law, which you will explain. How to make it more stronger and impartial. So you can give few points. Say for example, you can say that how to make it more stronger, that the disqualification should be not only for a very limited time, the disqualification should be for a certain number of years. Will it make it more stronger?
And then simultaneously on top of that, how to make it impartial. How to make it impartial, you can say that it can be given to a specific tribunal. And when you talk of the tribunal, you can say the recommendation, so and so recommendation was given in the KM Singh case. So you make use of the case law also. How to make it more impartial? Nabam Rabia case you can make use. In the Nabam Rabia case, the Supreme Court said when the speaker is, when there is a motion to remove the speaker, he shall not decide on that. Who shall decide on that anti-defection law? The deputy speaker. So you make use of the various points also, and wherever possible you make use of what? You make use of case laws also. So try to make use of at least 1 or 2 case laws, whatever we read. In the entire course, I will discuss around 70 to 80 case laws, sufficient case laws, important case laws. In your answer, you should at least reflect 1 or 2 case laws in most of the questions, wherever there is a scope. There will be scope in all the questions which is coming in fundamental rights. There will be question from parliament, question from executives. In these areas, definitely there is a scope. Okay, so 10 to 15 case laws there should be there in your answer. Now, similarly, come to the next question. Though the anti-defection law was brought with an intention, so here also you can start briefly explaining what is anti-defection law. Though the anti-defection law was brought in with an intention, so here you can briefly give it in the introduction what is anti-defection law and the rationality behind the anti-defection law. Though the anti-defection law was brought with an intention of ensuring the stability of the elected government, it requires serious reforms. So here you will have to focus more on what? The reforms. Do you agree with that? Yes, we have to agree with that. So what are the various reforms is what is the important area. So reforms means I have given a lot of suggestions how to make it more stronger, impartial, and you can also on top of that add certain Supreme Court judgments as well. Okay. So with this we are done with what I have to do. There is one more topic which is related to the parliamentary privileges, but parliamentary privileges, and then you have another topic of the leader of opposition, I think, after the parliamentary privileges. Do you have leader of opposition? Or we have not done the topic yet? Okay, leader of opposition is one more topic. Leader of opposition, parliamentary privileges, parliamentary committees, parliamentary reforms. So these 4 topics I will do it in the next class. Okay. So what we will do is I have covered 3 topics today. So when you come tomorrow in the morning, the first thing is 10 to 10:30. So 10 o'clock the class will start, 10 to 10:30 we will give in 30 minutes. And from whatever I have discussed, I will give you 3 questions. So try to write an answer to those 3 questions, and then I will have a very brief discussion to see as to how you have written that particular question. Then we will move to the other topics. So tomorrow I will cover 4 topics, and with that the parliament chapter will be done. 2 to 3 questions are expected from this particular area. Whether you write the prelims this year or next year, what is likely to change is only very few current examples that I use, like Manipur issue or the Arunachal issue. So most likely other things will remain the same thing. Okay. So before I complete the lecture, just give me a couple of minutes. So let me also, for the students who joined late online and who came late online, so let me just brief you about this particular program, summarize about this particular program. So here you can see the class plan. So today is the first lecture which we have already done. So here you can see that I have, we are starting it on 6th July, that is today, and this particular course will go on till when? Go on till the 8th of September. I think 20th September is the mains examination. Anybody giving mains examination here? Mains examination, okay. So for you it does not matter. You are? Okay, you are attempting from next year. So for you it does not matter because it is, for you the prelims mains schedule does not matter, but this is the schedule, okay. So you try to see. So this is what we are going to cover up. So you can also have a look into this particular program. So this is something, whatever is there in the syllabus, I am covering each and every topic. So I already said that this particular course which you are doing presently will cover polity, plus governance, polity, plus governance plus the social justice part. Social justice part, which is approximately how many marks in your mains examination in GS paper 2? This is for the GS paper 2, the entire GS paper 2. Which is for these three areas will be 200 marks. And if you break up this particular part, polity alone will be around 125 marks, roughly around 9 to 10 questions. Out of 20 questions, 9 to 10 questions from your GS paper 2 is from polity. And then governance and social justice will be for 75 marks. So that means roughly this area will be 200 marks. So I have not thought about the international relations yet, but once this course goes well, I may touch upon the international relations also. Okay. So for the students who are giving the mains, I'm not promising that, but students who are not appearing for this year mains, I may also cover up the international relations part, which will take me around another 3-4 lectures. Okay. But as of now, we are focusing on these 200 marks, and the classes will be only on Saturdays and Sundays for the first batch as of now. So till September, it will be only on Saturdays and Sundays. Classes will be around 2.5 hours to 3 hours, Saturday and Sunday. So classes, you can say it will be roughly around 2.5 hours, but half an hour of writing practice. So it will be a 3 hours of class. And every class, I'll make you to write 3 to 4 answers. That means by the end of the course, minimum I can guarantee you, you will be writing 60 answers. But of course, this is very important. I cannot write answers for you as long as you don't write. So you are giving you the time to write the answers. So 60 answers means overall mostly these parts will be covered. Different themes will be covered. And then we'll have a small discussion of these answers also. I may look into the answers of the students. I may give them some certain suggestions. 1 or 2 answers I may randomly pick. We will do that. And as I already said, classes will be twice in a week, that is Saturday and Sunday in the morning. And this batch will be likely to be end by September. And at the end of the batch, you can see the schedule here. At the end of the batch, there will be one full test on 8th of September. One full test, I will completely prepare this particular question, and you can come and you can sit and write a full test. And for all the students, I will personally evaluate this particular copy and I will give you the feedback. Okay, so this is about the thing. And apart from this, I am also planning to start one ethics case study series also, which will start subsequently. On 20th of July, we are planning to start that. So students, you can either separately join this course, or you can join an integrated course with the case studies also. For further information, you can go and have the details in the office. So today it's a demo lecture. Tomorrow again it's a demo lecture. You can inform your friends also. Free demo lecture tomorrow also. And then after that you can decide about joining this particular course. But I can guarantee you that if you join this particular course in your GS paper 2, out of this 200 marks, I'll make sure that you get 110 plus marks. This is a very conservative estimate. I'm not giving a very hype in this particular thing. Ilakya might know that if she would have done well properly, 90% of the prelims questions you would have done from our prelims course. I'm not sure how much Ilakya has done, but there are students who came and said that they are able to do 90% of the questions in my prelims polity course. I've done a course for around, I think 35 hours of prelims course. So 90% of the questions they are able to do, but here I'm not doing that. There I guaranteed students 80% of the questions, but they are able to do 90%, but I am here making a very conservative estimate out of 200 marks, which is 110 plus. But if you can get another 20 marks in your IR part, I'm very sure that students can get up 130 plus marks in this particular paper, which could be really rewarding for the students. You understand the weightage of each and every single mark in the examination. All right. So with that, we'll wind up the session for today. In case any queries, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll wind up the session. And tomorrow again, same time, 10 o'clock, we'll have the demo session. But the first thing is that you'll have to write the answers. In the board, we will display 3 questions. You just come and start writing the answers. By 10:30, I'll come and I'll start the lecture. But by 10, all the students have to come, including the online students also. By 10 o'clock, be prepared. So today, what you do is go home and revise the topics, whatever I said, try to analyze these. And most likely, the questions are from whatever you have discussed, but I may give some different questions also. But from whatever content we have seen, you will be in a position to write the answers. And that writing is very, very important. Unless and until you write, you will not be ready for the mains. And for students like you, if you are planning to give it next year, it is better be prepared so that you can do it in the very first go. Students who are giving the mains, they can also take this particular program very seriously, who are going to give. Students who appeared in the prelims but not able to clear the prelims examination this year, for them also this course is good enough. Because as I already said, maybe 1 or 2 examples might vary, but otherwise we are going to cover most of the things, which will almost 90-95% of the things will be the same, even if you do the course next year. So in this way, we will plan and we'll move forward. Okay. So with that, I'll wind up the class for today. We'll continue the class again tomorrow in the morning, but be prepared to write the answers. Okay. All the very best. God bless all of you. Thank you very much.